and go live. And there we go. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of your favorite TV show, YouTube show, whatever show, Digital Classroom. So let's start. If I can find the trailer, of course. There we go. Okay, let me start off by thanking our sponsors. Now, our sponsors, of course, for many years already are BenQ and Rogue. Let me just tell you a little bit about BenQ. BenQ is a manufacturer of monitors and a lot of other stuff, of course. And one of the reasons that I choose BenQ, and that's actually, I think, very important for you guys. So it's not just promoting a brand, it's also why we do it. Now, when you use a monitor, it's very important that you see the images the way that they were shot, right? Now, we are also active with home theater and calibrations. And for us, it's very important that we literally see on a projector or on a TV screen exactly the movie the way that the producer intended it. And one of the coolest things I ever heard was actually one of the instructors of the ESF saying, calibration is very important because you don't go to a museum and you piss on a Picasso. In other words, you don't change the colors. But with movie watching and also with photography, we are constantly changing our colors because colors evoke emotion. And this is the thing why it's very important. If you take an image and you take any similar image, like for example outside or in the studio, it doesn't really matter, and you shoot 5 similar images, you want those 5 similar images to look similar, right? Because they're part of a set. But what about when you go outside and you go with your model outside, you have a beautiful backdrop, you shoot your images, then you go inside and you go to another location with tungsten lighting or fluorescent lighting. You want all those images to look exactly the same. And we have certain tools for that. And the first one is, of course, the light meter. The second one is, of course, the color checker from X-Rite or Calibrite. And, of course, the right monitor. And this is the part where we get a lot of questions about, and that's why I included it in this digital classroom and not the previous one, because the questions came after that episode, is how do you calibrate and why do you calibrate? You always have to remember that when you calibrate your monitor with your color analyzer, that's the DCP or ICC profile for your monitor. So when you go into Photoshop, you don't select a profile from your monitor. You select the color space you want to work in. So Adobe RGB, sRGB or ProPhoto RGB. I highly advise, of course, 16 bits Adobe RGB. So you calibrate your monitor and you only use that ICC profile for the monitor, so in your operating system, and you don't do it anywhere else. So why BenQ? Well, BenQ has hardware calibratable monitors. That means that you can calibrate the monitor not via software, but inside the monitor itself with a LUT table. That has a way higher resolution, better images. The second sponsor, of course, is Rogue. And since March last year, we are also the official distributor for Rogue in the Netherlands. I've known them for over, I think, 15 years already. And it's just a great brand for speed lights, but also with the umbrellas, of course. They have a great setup for both speed lights, round strobes and big strobes. And of course, the famous Expo disc, which we absolutely love to use for white balance on location. It even works with your smartphone. How about that? So those are the 2 sponsors and they make Digital Classroom possible. So thank you so very much for those guys. They're absolutely awesome. And I told you already about images, right? And about how we love to work with images and looks. But does it sometimes happen with you, and I know it happens with me, that an image isn't 100% sharp? That there's so much noise that you think, I can literally throw this image away. Or when you go to your file and you go to your files and you go like, ooh, this is an image of a loved one, maybe you lost a loved one, and it's just a very low resolution, it's noisy, you didn't nail the focus 100%. Well, then read on my blog the review about the new Topaz Photo AI. And we're going to release a video for that before the weekend. It was literally one of those packages where my jaw dropped on the floor. I never saw anything like that. So I'm very, very enthusiastic about it. You already see it. I filmed the review today and it's just insane. So make sure you check that out too. Today we have a topic called red. Now, we all know that color evokes emotion, right? Color gives us something. Now, when I shout out, like, what's the first thing you think about when you hear the color red? You will find love, passion, fire, hate, war, danger. There's so many things that you can hear from red. Now when I do the same thing for blue, distant, cold, the future, uncertainty, cold, I already called that one, right? With blue I'm a little bit more, maybe relaxed, that can be blue. But blue is a little bit more difficult. Now when I call out green, what emotion belongs to green? Yeah, being sick, but nothing more. And this is why in our photography, in my photography at least, I love to use the primary colors blue and red. Now between blue and red, there are of course your secondary colors, cyan, magenta and yellow. And between red and blue, there's magenta. So that means that when you shoot with primary colors, it's very nice to be on the top of those primary colors, so blue and red, but also to find something maybe in between, like magenta, or maybe go a little bit towards green with cyan or yellow. And yellow, in all honesty, we tried it a few times, it gives a little bit of a warm tint, but it doesn't give me that wow effect that, for example, a red gel uses. And of course, yesterday it was Valentine's Day. And of course, we celebrated that with Emmeloord. Right, Emmeloord?
Yes.
Yes, there we go. And we thought that it would be cool for today to do 2 different sets and have that really nice, strong color of red. And then the first thing I thought about, like, okay, we've done Digital Classroom so many times. What do I want to tell you guys? What do I want to say to you guys that's really helping maybe out with some creativity or anything else that you need? And then it just hit me, like, let's just do the photo shoot. Let's just shoot the sets. Let's just create the lighting and let's just show what happens. So are you guys ready? I think you are, right? So Emmeloord, are you ready?
Yes.
And we have a special guest today who's helping us out, and we have Nadine and we have Chewy. So if you hear a dog barking, that's our studio dog called Chewy. He's really big, he's really mean, he eats, he's very nice and cute, but he has a very strong voice. Color evokes emotion, barking too. But the wrong emotion. Okay, so I hope you guys don't mind if you hear a little bit of bark. So let's go to the set, to Nadine, our top model of course for today and great stylist, and the color red. Let's see if we can evoke some emotion from you guys. So Emmeloord is going to take over, but first I'm going to select a beautiful camera standpoint to make sure that we can see something nice. And that's not that one. There we go. So here you see the whole set. Isn't that awesome? Look at that. That's just great. Nice. Okay, Emmeloord, your turn. So let me switch over to the picture-in-picture camera. There we go. Oops. Okay. Now, the first thing we want to make sure of is, of course, that we can see the whole set. So what do we need to do? Well, when I look now, I already see something of the set, but that's only with the lighting of the studio. And that's, of course, something that will give me a little bit of a flat model. So let's turn it all the way up so you can actually see what I'm doing. Let's grab a light meter. That's also very important, of course, to make sure that we meter the light correctly. Hold it in front of the area you want correctly lit. Fire the strobe, and we come out at f8, 5.69. So that's almost f8. So that's great. So let's take a picture on f8, and let's see what happens. And I'm not going to do anything special at the moment. I'm just going to take a picture. And there we go. And as you can see, it's not really spectacular. It's incredibly boring. So what I want to do is I want to include more of the backdrop. The only problem is the backdrop, and it's an amazing backdrop, but I have to make sure that my model fits in that backdrop. So I have to work on composition. So what do I do with composition? I will literally just look through the viewfinder and I will go a little bit more back, zoom in so I have a little bit more latitude, and I will probably crop this a little bit square. I want to make sure that I include the dress, and there we go. So now you can see a little bit more of the dress, and I'm starting to really dig this. I'm starting to see something where I go like, oh, I really like this. Let me shoot one more because it turned black. So how can I improve this? The first thing I want to do is I want to pinpoint my light to my model. And I think at the moment it's not really pinpointed, it's more flat. And as I mentioned before, flat lighting is not really my thing. So let's move this way, and let's move it a little bit on the side of my model. So I'm going to aim it. There we go. Maybe raise the light just a little bit. There we go. Now this looks way better. Now let's grab the meter again. Awesome. let's make sure that it's really aimed at my model. Is it aimed at you at the moment? I can't see it 100%, but I trust you. 11.5. So let's go down 5 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that should be F11, in case you guys are taking notes. Let's do F11. Let's just move all the way here. Zoom in. And there we go. So now we have more aim at our model. Everything else becomes really dark and the model really jumps out. But it's not really what I like. I would love to have a little bit of an accent light. So Emmeloord, can you please turn on the camera on the back? Yeah. And don't put yourself in the frame.
Accident.
Yeah. She just wants attention of the viewers. Okay, so Emmeloord is turning on the light from the back. It's red. Oh, wow. Let's see what happens. Okay, turn it full blast, Emmeloord. On full power. And move it a little bit more towards the set if you want. Way more. Just move it all the way in. Yes, now aim it towards me. There we go, that's nice, I think. Let's try this. We want a little bit of lens flare. Is it on full power?
Yeah.
Okay, so as you can see, on full power it doesn't really do anything. It's too low. But I can't turn on more power. This is something that will happen a lot. And you can come down again, don't worry. This will happen a lot. Sometimes you have this front strobe, you're very enthusiastic, you go to F11, F16, why not F22, make it sharp, make it sharper. You don't really make it sharper, you just change the depth of field. And then that backlight doesn't give you the effect that you want. So what do? Well, very simple. You just lower the front strobe. So I'm now on 9.5. So let's go to 8.5, let's go to 7.5, and let's go to 6.5. So that's 3 full stops down. Now, when I'm 3 full stops down, I'm going from F11 to F8 to 5.6 to F4. So now I have very shallow depth of field. And that also means that I have a little bit less problems of getting lens flare. Look at this. So now from the side, you can really see that lens flare popping in. And you get a little bit of an Instagram effect without using Instagram. Because we all hate Instagram, of course, as photographers. But it's really cool, right? So it's love-hate. And when I look at the image, I go like, yeah, we're getting there. But maybe add a little bit of spice. So let's go to 5.6. So we're going back up a stop. Let's turn this one also up to 7.5. Because I need a little bit more light on my model. So let's go all the way back. There we go. Nice. I think this is a more nicely balanced shot. So you have a little bit of red on the sides. You have a little bit of an accent. Looks pretty nice. But I miss so much detail. And this is where we're going to use light in light. And I think this is one of the techniques. As soon as I got this figured out, it just opened up so much for me in creativity. Because we really like that spot effect on our model. We really like that model to jump out and everything else is dark. But when I look at the image, I go like, ooh, maybe it's too dark. Maybe it's just way too dark for the very simple reason it doesn't really jump out. It doesn't really do anything for me. So we need some extra lighting in there. But how do we create extra lighting? Of course, you can go into Lightroom and just raise the shadows. That's one of the things you can do, and then you get a lot of more detail in there. But when you raise the shadows, you also take away a little bit of that intensity of the shot. It just doesn't look 100% right. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to aim the light a little bit more to the left to make sure that also her arm is great. But now when I look at this, I go like, you know what? Maybe just do it like this. And because we want a little bit of the dress also in there, let's do it like this. Let's see what happens. Because he's still in the hot spot, I don't really feel the need to remeter. There we go. I think this looks much better. But hey, it's almost there. But again, that darkness. So this is where we use the light in light. So let's bring in this. And now that I have my umbrella, I actually think that I also dare to move my light more to the side, creating even more of that nice, almost Rembrandt lighting. Add a little bit of power. There we go. Nice. But I also want to see everything else. So I'm going to take my umbrella and place it approximately on the same angle as my main light. And turn it on. And as you can see on the video, it already looks a little bit better, but let's first turn it off. I'm going to show you something that's really nice about a light meter. Now, a light meter has two options in the case of this one. We can do incident meter reading, hold it in front of the area we want correctly lit, or we can do spot metering and meter it. And when we do spot metering, it will give me the value for 18% gray. Now, because not everybody uses a light meter with a spot meter, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something else. First, I'm going to meter the face of the model. So, Emmeloord, if you can switch over to the high cam. So this is 5.6. So this is already where the light was set up. But if I meter here, on the bottom part of the dress, I'm getting a 2.07, which is very, very low. And that's actually not what we want to do. So we want to make sure that we have detail there. So I need at least there something like f4. And I'm now at 2.07, so that's almost 2.8. So let's just raise this one. Let's open it up. Okay, let's turn it down. And I want to end up with something like f4 on the bottom. .87, so we're almost there. Just add a little bit, 3 clicks, there we go. Okay, take my distance. And there we go. So now we have contrast on our model. We have a very nice fill-in light on the bottom. You can see everything very nicely. The only thing is I need that light a little bit more on the left side, because now everything on the right side is nicely lit by that beautiful red and it gives that nice glow. Our model is nicely lit, but I still need a little bit of light on the sides. And this is where the umbrella comes in really nice, because I can feather this one. I can, for example, feather it that way so we don't hit that side, just hit it a little bit there. Give it a little bit more power, because when feathering we need a little bit more. There we go. So I want to try to create a little bit of a split. And there we go. Nice. Oh, sorry. Shot two images. Let me first set that to normal shooting instead of high plus. There we go. Okay, I think this looks way better. Let's give a little bit more attention to the model. I'm overexposing now slightly because 5.6 was the setting. But sometimes you have to be creative because we want to create a certain look. There we go. And now the model really jumps out and we get a really nice backdrop. Maybe a little bit too much. And this is the thing, although you're using a light meter, you can always change your lighting, because it doesn't really matter that you have perfect lighting in exposure, it matters that you have the perfect lighting for the set. And in this case, that's a little bit overexposed on the face, but I think that really works. Look at this. Let's give it a little bit more lens flare from the side. Okay, now I'm shooting from a distance and I can even go further away. Let's go all the way here, zoom in more. I will lose a little bit of the lens flare, but I can fit in more of the set. And in Photoshop later we will crop this to make it a little bit more square. I really like this, but you know, on the foot, there's too little light. You see that it's too dark. So how do we do that? Well, this is actually why I chose the strip light. As you can see, the strip light is a very long softbox, but it's also very narrow. And it means that we can actually cover a lot of ground from top to bottom and only a little bit from the sides. Now the sides we already have in order with, of course, that umbrella. So what happens if I just turn off my main light? Go all the way to the back, zoom in, zoom out, that's better. There we go. So this is without our main light. This is what the umbrella does, what the red gel does. And this is not spectacular, right? It's boring. So what do? We want to make sure that that leg also gets the light. When you look at the strip light now, it's actually aimed this way. So I would never hit that leg, but if I aim it this way, lower it slightly, there we go, and turn it on again. Let's aim the light straight at our model. There we go. Now what's the lag? Now in the studio it's now pretty light, so I don't see exactly what I'm doing. So it's a little bit of guesswork. But I think this will be much better. There you go. And now we hit a problem. Do you remember that I metered everything correctly? 5.6 on the model. And then I started tweaking everything. You know the reason why I tweaked everything? Because I still thought stuff was too dark. And this is one of the things that I really want to give to you guys. If you have a light meter and you still feel the need to overexpose the face, only do it if you really want that look. Don't do it because something else is too dark. And you saw it happening here, right? I aimed the light a different way and immediately that leg was too dark. So I started adding more light to the face to try to compensate that. It didn't work. By aiming the light exactly the other way around, so not like this, but like this. Annemiek, is that on the camera? Okay, that actually means that I can literally control where that light falls. And you saw the difference. So now let's try to get that light in order again, because I messed it up. So take the light meter again. .66. So that's pretty high. Let's go down. There we go. Okay, Nadine, are you ready? There we go. 1, 2. And now with 5.6, no more overexposed areas. We have a perfectly lit model. Maybe her arm could be a little bit more lit. So let's just aim the light just a little bit because the face is already great. So just aim it a little bit and just ask the model to keep the hand a little bit closer to the body. There we go. And now we have everything perfect in order. But we're not done yet. So I really like this setup. I really like the dress. I like the face. Maybe I should add a little bit more aim to the light. Again, it's a very bright studio at the moment, so I don't see everything 100% perfectly. But I think we're gonna get there sooner or later. And there we go. I think this is perfect. There we go. But that isn't all. What you of course want to do is you want to be creative. And of course this is a great set and it looks awesome. But why not move your position? Let's say if I'm shooting from here, I'm pretty limited. I can zoom in a little bit. I can create some great images, but that's about it. There's nothing more I can do. There's nothing that I can make it more oomph, more wow. What if I go really close to my model and, for example, say, okay, I really like this, but let's just shoot it from here. Oh, sorry. Delete that image. Let's see if I shoot it from a really low angle. Nice. Or what if I like flat lighting more? I want to do it from here. And get a really nice backlighting. Of course, you can add this later in Boris FX or Photoshop. Really like this. But what if I shoot through the material from a really low angle? Oh. Yeah, I know I'm missing the toe. I'm afraid of feet. Okay, I can include the toe. There we go. That's better? Don't push me. Okay, can you keep the foot just down? There we go, because I want to do something really low. Now, of course, we have a ceiling, which I don't really like in the images, but this is something that you can do a lot on location, of course. But how about changing everything over and just do it from a higher standpoint? So let's go here. Let's do it all the way like this, or maybe even, and we will be very happy with this, shoot it in portrait mode. Nice. And how about if she looks straight into the camera lens? Or maybe point towards the camera lens. And more towards the camera lens. Even more. All the way. There we go. Slower. Lower, 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 lower. There we go. So you can play with that distortion of your wide angle. You can play with the looks. I really like that accent on her nose. It's something where I go like, yeah, almost. What if I go here? Okay, look all the way to the... There we go. Zoom in. And now it becomes very important that later on in Photoshop I take out the sides, of course, and make that dark or make that something a little bit more interesting. Like this. Very nice. Go for a low angle. Okay. I want to make sure that that whole dress is on there. And from this angle, I think we nailed the shot pretty much. Let's go a little bit lower. Nice. Even lower. You see what happens when we go lower and lower and lower? At one point, it's almost like you're shooting it all the way up, like it's majestic. It's almost like a Batman or Superman shot. It's like, we call it the hero shots. So let's go all the way down. I know I'm out of all cameras on a week. That's why I do it. Nice. Or maybe this is too low. I'll try it like this. And zoom in a little bit. You don't have to include all the whole set every single time, of course. Nice, chin down just a little bit. There we go, love this. Wow, great. Nice. Okay, one more. Okay, a little bit more relaxed in your arm. There we go, nice. And zoom out again to include more of the dress. Love it. Okay. After this one, cross your arms just a little bit. There we go. And of course we can do one more thing that could be interesting. Anouk, can you move that strobe a little bit more forward, please? Like almost all the way to the front. And then aim it straight towards me. So it doesn't hit the set anymore. So aim it towards here. Yeah, a little bit more that way. That way. Stop. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Gonna take off the sun hood. I'm gonna leave everything else the way that it is, except for that light. I'm now on f5.6. I'm gonna go to 2.8. So I'm gonna go down one stop. That's f4. Gonna go down another stop, that's f2.8. You know what? Gonna go down another stop, that's 2.8 ISO 200. So let's go to 2.8, ISO 200. And let's turn this one down also. There we go. Okay, now let's see what happens now. So I remove the sun hood. I have a K&F Concept black mist filter, black diffusion filter on my lens. So let's see what happens with that lens flare. There we go. This is a little bit over the top, but somehow I also like this a lot. There's still a little bit too much light hitting her dress. There's maybe a little bit too much light on her. So let's just change the aperture again to f4. So now again I'm cooking, I'm playing with my lighting and my settings. It's not like I'm metered anymore. I'm just looking what I like, and here we go. This is the look that I really like. Awesome. Add a little bit more light on our model, and because I know I erased a stop, the only thing I have to do is do a stop here. There we go. So now I'm in balance again, exactly where I should be for the light meter. And there we go. And I think when we're using so much of that lens flare and so much of that light hitting us, maybe we can even get away without our extra lighting here. Let's see if that works. Yeah, I turned the umbrella off. I love it. Low angle. Oh, sorry. The trigger is really sensitive. Nice. Nadine, relax your arm a little bit in that same pose. There we go. Love it. Okay. So overall, for this set, I think we nailed it. Let's go to the computer. And I'm going to explain to you guys what we did. And Nadine is going to change for the next set, which of course is going to be just as spectacular or even better, knowing Nadine. So let's switch back. And let's go to my camera. Let's see, camera 2. There we go. And let's start first a trailer for something that you guys of course need to do and need to buy, need to get. And there we go. Hey guys, Frank here, and we have a brand new tutorial for you guys, and it's called, well, you already see it in front of me, Speedlight Magic. And we all know those little strobes, right? But did you know that those strobes are incredibly creative? That you can do almost anything you want with them? Well, this is the video if you want to know more about the speedlights. We're going to talk about the techniques like high speed sync, first curtain sync, second curtain sync. We're going to talk about fighting daylight, how to mix strobe, what is flash exposure compensation, what is zooming, and a lot more. But we're also going to talk about stuff that's really important for your workflow. What about the perfect remote controls? How about mounting those strobes on a stand? What is a boom stand? Why do you want to use it? And of course, what are my favorite modifiers? Well, if you think that's it, you're totally wrong. We also have a whole segment where we go into the studio with our model Nadine and we're going to talk about lighting setups, techniques behind those lighting setups, but most of all, how to create stunning images with only 2 speedlights. Does that sound interesting to you guys? It sure does to me. So join us on Speedlight Magic, available now. So if you want to know everything about speedlights, get it from us. So we always try to get those tutorials, by the way, as low as possible in price, so everybody is able to afford them. And that's the same with our preset packs, by the way. If you go to our website, you can actually also see that we sell preset packs. And one of the things that I always stress to you guys is don't pay too much money for a preset pack. You sometimes see presets pack for $1.99, now for $9.99. I don't know. I think a preset pack is something that you can literally easily build yourself. It takes a lot of time. And if you like the look of a certain photographer, like if, for example, if you like my looks, just buy that preset pack, but don't pay $1.99 for it. We sell our preset packs between 10 euros and 15 euros for often 50 or 60 presets. And those are exactly the same presets that I use. So how do we get so many presets? For the very simple reason, if I have an image, then I will try to get the preset as close as possible. But sometimes you also use that preset on another image. And that other image might be a little bit different. So you will make small adjustments. So that's what you also find in those preset packs. So not one basic, but also fine-tuned presets. And I think they're pretty awesome. So make sure that if you want to buy anything from us, that you go to our shop. And let me just go that There you go, frankdorff.com/shop. It couldn't be easier, right? And on the shop, by the way, we also have IQwire, we have ClickPro backdrops, we have, of course, our IQ wires. I already told you guys that, but we also have our Rogue products there. So make sure you check it out. Okay, so let me just show you guys what we did. Let's go to here. Okay, so the first images I took were very simple. We had the strip light set up, not by accident, the wrong way, to show you guys later on that if you follow that strip light, you will be fine if you follow the lines in the image. So here we only have that strip light on, and it's okay, but it's not spectacular. Here we did a metering. As you can see here, it all looks pretty nice, but you still miss something. And for me in an image, I want to see that extra detail. And of course, I want to see that little bit of a lens flare. So here we are actually adding that lens flare. And as you can see here, that's way too much over the red of the dress. It's really blowing out your color channels, and you don't want this. Now, this is one of the reasons why we actually use light meters. For the very simple reason, you don't want to clip color channels. You want to make sure that all your color channels are perfect. So you can hit 99% or 99.9, but you can't hit 100. So just make sure that you stay below 90. Okay, here we started changing the light slightly, and here we go. So this is a lot better. And I think here I started adding the umbrella. Now, about the umbrella, I have to tell you guys something. Like, when we start out with photography, one of the first things we use is an umbrella, of course, because, well, almost every kit that you buy, there's an umbrella there. But most of the time, people don't really know their lighting yet. So when you buy a softbox, everything goes way better, right? And yeah, because you spend money on a softbox, and you really need to learn. Otherwise, your wife goes like, hey, you bought a softbox, why? And that's when you start learning photography. Then you start using more expensive softboxes. You start using grids, you start using strip lights, beauty dishes, and whatnot more. And you forget about that stupid umbrella. The thing is, I did exactly the same thing, and I know a lot of the professionals experience exactly the same thing. I recently saw a video from a good friend of us, Lindsay Adler, and she said exactly the same thing I'm going to tell you guys now. It was so cool. We filmed it about at the same period, and we all came to the same conclusion. If you use an umbrella with the knowledge you have now, the umbrella is one of the most versatile units you can get. You can create beauty portraits with it. You can use it for feathering, great, because with the sleeve it becomes a flat light source. Without the sleeve it actually becomes a more focused light source. By changing the shaft length, you can actually create a hotspot, less hotspot, softer light, or more focused light. By changing the angle of your, it goes on and on and on, but most of all we use the umbrellas as filling light. And before that I used a 1 meter 20 softbox, which is a huge softbox, retails for about 800-900 euros. And now I use an umbrella that retails for about 70 euros. Now, don't get me wrong, I still love my Hensel softboxes and I love my Hensel strobes. But sometimes you don't want to use an 800 euro softbox just to open up shadows. It takes up a lot of space, and the umbrella is really small and you can just fit it in everywhere. Plus I can take it with me on location very easily. So the umbrella as fill-in light. Okay, now we started doing some more funky stuff. And here you can see that I'm finding those curves and those lines. And slowly but surely, I became to find my look. And this is something that happens a lot during sessions. Sometimes you just have to look for what you want. Sometimes it just doesn't happen at once. Don't worry. Walk around your model. Even if you don't have a lot of space, move a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. It can make a huge difference in your images. And I actually like this setup. So let's go through these images a little bit. As you can see here, I'm taking a lot of images that probably are not 100% correct, but they are okay. And sometimes there's one, like for example, this one, I really like this. And now I went to the lower angles, and the lower angles is something that I can't stress enough how cool that is. A low angle really gives you that Batman, that Superman vibe, that vibe of somebody who's small becomes bigger and taller, and it's just majestic. And this is a trick, by the way, if you shoot a CEO, this is one of the coolest things you can do, and it's very subtle and it's very underneath your brain. If you shoot somebody that's a CEO and you just go a little bit lower, and when you shoot the normal employees of the company, you just go a little bit higher, you will see that the CEO just looks a little bit more majestic, a little bit more like the boss, while the normal staff, it's very subtle, but they just look a little bit different. And I think this is what makes a photographer a storyteller, but most of all, it makes the photographer somebody that captures your vision and not something like, okay, stand before a backdrop, press the shutter, we're done. You want to make sure that the CEO looks a little bit different than the employees. And sometimes you have a CEO that stands in between its employees, that's the same level. But even then, I will try for the CEO to just go a little bit lower, just change it a little bit to make him stand out just a little bit more. Because in the end, that's the guy that pays your bills, right? Think about that one. So low angle really works. And of course, this is an extremely low angle. Don't do this for any portrait work. When I'm talking about portrait work, I'm literally talking about this. Shooting this or shooting this. Very subtle, very, very slight change, but a huge change on your portraits. And make sure you have a normal ceiling. So if I would have rebuilt the studio, and we didn't have that luxury when we, of course, did this, and I never thought about it to be a problem, maybe in the future we will change this, I would make the ceiling, especially in that area, totally black. So maybe in a few months you will actually see that we have a black ceiling over there. But also from a higher standpoint down. And I think this is something that a lot of photographers are afraid to do, or just don't do, or never venture into. The angle under which you shoot determines everything about the shot. It can make a shot stand out, or it can break down a shot. And I think lower angle is majestic, higher angle is just weird, it's bizarre. And when you look at a movie, now tonight as your homework, just look at a movie and just find out what the producer or the filmmaker actually means with all the different angles. Or did you really think they didn't think about this? Of course they do. Every single shot, every single detail is thought about. Like, how would it look if we shoot it from a high angle down? No. How would it look if we shoot it from a lower angle up? Especially horror movies, science fiction movies. It just all works, but there's more. Now, when I shot from a higher angle, I was actually using a wider angle. And at that point, you have to realize something. The camera doesn't see any depth. The only thing the camera can see is something that's closer by, it renders it bigger. Something that's further away, it renders it smaller. So when you're using a wide angle lens, it's very important to realize that everything that you place towards the lens will look much bigger. Look at this, my hand is here, it's small. My hand is over here, it looks way bigger than everything else. Do you see that? Oh my, it's the invasion of the big hands. You see that? The 50-foot hands, or whatever you want to call it. And this is one of the things that you can also play with. So a lot of people ask me always like, Frank, what is your favorite portrait lens? There is no favorite portrait lens. If I really have to pick only one, it would be the 24 to 72.8 for the very simple reason. 2.8 in the studio means that I have maximum focus speed, because focusing is always done with wide open aperture. So that's great. So we have no hunting and it's great for the studio. But the 24 to 70 also gives me something that's incredibly powerful. It gives me a 70 millimeter, which is a cropped, or sorry, zoomed in, so compressed. But it also gives me the 24. And the 24 just gives me way more latitude to create something a little bit more weird. Now let's go back to that movie again. Now we all watched James Cameron's Aliens, right? Not the first one, but the second one. Now why was that movie so incredibly scary? For the very simple reason. Look at the angles James Cameron shot it in. Look at the way that everything was lit. Now imagine this. We are 300 years in the future. Do you really think in a world where there is absolutely no problem anymore with technique, that everything needs to be dark? Do you really think that in 500 years and you enter an abandoned building, that you only have those little flashlights that we have now? No, of course not. You probably throw in a drone with a big flashlight and there's no darkness anymore and no surveillance anymore. You just look. So why didn't he do that in Aliens? Because it isn't scary. Think about this. You open up the door, you throw in a drone. Oh, the aliens are over there. Okay, they're over there, so let's leave. No, it's way more exciting to make everything really dark and then just light up certain parts of the spaceship. Certain parts. A little bit of a hose. Is that an alien? No, it's not. Everything is thought about. We as photographers should do exactly the same, but we have to tell our story in 1/5000th of a second. We don't have an hour and a half. We have to tell that story in a very short time. And we don't have moving pictures. So what we have to do is we have to create a mood with color. Color evokes emotion. But we also can create mood by choosing our angles. So high angle, low angle, wide angle to create more that effect of, wow, this is weird, or maybe we need to compress everything to make sure that the model fits on our backdrop. So there's so many different options to think about. Now, when shooting, I'm always thinking about how does the image look right. I'm never looking at composition. This is also one of the questions you guys ask, like, hey Frank, we see you sometimes shooting in a square, sometimes in 3:2, sometimes 16 by 9. When you do a movie, let's go to the movies again, you always determine what a look you want. 235 on 1, or do you want 16 by 9, or 185, or Academy Standard, I believe that's 178 to 1. And you hardly see any movies where you switch between those different settings. Now, you do see that sometimes, for example, I believe it was The Dark Knight, the Batman movie, where some scenes are shot in IMAX. So you're looking at the whole movie in 235 in 1, and then when it switches to IMAX, you actually see it in 16 by 9. And that's an exception. Normally, you choose your aspect ratio and you stick with that aspect ratio. We as photographers, again, we don't have moving images, we don't have scenes that change. We only have one image that makes an impact. So if this image looks better in a square, just crop it in a square. Unless, of course, your client has certain demands, like, okay, I want it printed on an A2 or A0, that's a big print. Then, of course, you have to follow the rules of that composition. You can't do anything square and then make black borders. It doesn't look nice. But if you publish for yourself or for internet or for your portfolio, you don't really have to stick to that 3:2. I think that is something that we inherited from always printing. So we always need to print because that's the 3:2 standard or the 4:3 standard, and we have to print on that. Nowadays, we don't print a lot anymore. We use it on digital media. So be free. Just shoot whatever you want in whatever form you want, but make sure that it fits. Another thing that I really look for is, of course, the angles. Like, for example, when I see something like this, that's an image that I will take out. Now, during the shoot, I won't tell this to the model. I will literally just wait until I'm doing retouching, or if I know the model really well, like Nadine, I will probably say, don't do the bokkenpootje. That's Dutch. I don't know the translation for it in English, but it's like when you do this, it just doesn't look nice. Like, for example, this I really like. This is way better. This is nice, but I miss the second hand. That's always something I look for. Now, in essence, I see the second hand over there, but I want to see it a little bit more in the frame. And in this case. But she also had this really nice hair. So I want to make sure that that also includes in the picture. But you have to realize you don't have to include everything. Our brains are very capable of just filling in the blanks. So if you see two of those little ponytails and you only see part of that one, your brain will automatically go like, okay, that's the third one. So you don't need to include it, but make sure you include the other two, because that will help your brain actually fill in the blanks. For me, this is a little bit too low, although it does look nice. I really like this one. Here we have the same thing. It's a nice pose, but for me it's a little bit too overstretched. This one I absolutely like. And here I don't mind the hand being like this because it doesn't hold anything solid, right? It's hanging there and then it looks natural for me. Also, the hand is here from the side, as you can see. Now, a lot of photographers will not do this when they start out, and I did the same thing. And it's actually a terrible, terrible excuse, but bear with me. If you pose the hand, never do it like this. Because the hand is then very much in the frame and it just doesn't look nice. Don't do it like this, don't do it like this, but try to do it from the side. And then especially with the fingers, don't press like this. Press down, don't. Just let it float a little bit, like this. Then you don't have those nasty dings in your skin of the model. Just let it float a little bit. And then again from the side, so not like this, but more from the side like this. Just small things that in this case, look at the hand, it just fits perfectly. Now imagine the hand being tilted like this, it just takes too much attention. So now. And by the way, you can ask any questions you want in the chat. So Anouk is monitoring Facebook, I think, and I'm monitoring YouTube at the moment. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I do feel there needs to be a little bit more light on the face, but that's something I can do later in post. And I want to make sure that I see all the hands. And as you can see here, the hand is a little bit buried in the dress. This is much better, but I don't like the pose. And here we go. This is where I start to like the pose. Do you see the curves in this image? And this is something that a lot of you guys ask, like, hey Frank, we don't need to see the retouching, but how do you select your images? Where do you look for? And this is exactly where I look for. I want to make sure that I have a nice flowing curve in my image. My eyes have to be guided through the image, if you know what I mean, right? So here we go. This is also a great one, I think, with the triangle in our arms. It's really nice. This was a little bit overexposed, a lot. This is where we actually went, I believe, to 2.8. And as you can see here, I'm clipping the reds a lot. And I think here we started to do it a little bit better. I hope on YouTube you can see this, but I'm now seeing a drop in my overexposure. But sometimes YouTube messes that up. But this looks pretty okay. Let's go a little bit faster because Nadine is already back. And this is something we can easily save in Photoshop without clipping any channels, because we're literally on the brink here of not clipping it. But it's very, very tight. There we go. And I think this is the start again. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's close this. And Annevi, can you press on the shutter of the camera one time? But don't aim it at the model. Just somewhere. Yeah, that was it. Okay, there we go. Don't aim it at the model.
It was at the stage.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so I'm almost ready. Let's do one more commercial very quickly, and then we're gonna continue. And I think this one is very dear to my heart because we invest a lot of time in this community, and I would love for you guys to join. And it starts at only $1 a month. Let's go. Hey guys, and welcome to our studio in Emmeloord. My name is Frank Dorhoff, and today I want to talk to you guys about something that we get a lot of questions about. Hey Frank, how do you like this image? Hey Frank, what can I improve in this image? And of course, I love to help you guys out. But online, I mostly am limited to just saying, hey, I really like it, or continue like this, or change this. I can only do short images because, let's be honest, we get so many questions. So that's what actually got us thinking. And we started a Patreon. Now, what is a Patreon? Well, let me put it this way. Do you want an extensive photo critique every month? Do you want the bed phone, where you can directly contact me with any questions you have? Do you want to be a member of a group that's closed off on Facebook that have the same interest as you guys? That isn't about putting people down, but it's actually about helping people progress in their photography and retouching. Well, that's our Patreon. Now, by joining our Patreon, every month you can deliver 1 or 2 images. We're not that strict about it. And I will do a whole video. In that video, I will show you how I would do the retouching, what I would change about the shot, and I give you a whole lot of tips. That video is put online on a closed-off website. And it means that only the guys from Patreon can see that video and help you out. So I help you out, and the whole community helps you out. It's just an awesome way to learn. So, if you like what we do, of course, the first thing you can do is subscribe to our channels, leave comments, and smash that like button because we really like it, and tell other people about it. But if you want to do a little bit more and help us out creating the awesome programs you enjoy, like Behind the Closed Doors, Digital Classroom, quite frankly, our upcoming podcast, Beyond Photography with the Dorhoffs, and a lot more, then please join our Patreon. I already know you're absolutely gonna love it. So head on over to the link below and start joining our awesome group on Patreon and get a lot of benefits. Thank you so very much for supporting our work. See you online. Okay, and we're back. So Patreon, it's absolutely awesome. We have a special Facebook group for you guys. You see the backstage images from almost every workshop and event we do. We have special videos, portfolio reviews. It's absolutely awesome and a lot of inspiration over there. And great photographers, by the way. There are really some guys and girls that make a huge improvement. So make sure you follow us there. Okay, for the next setup, what we're going to do is we're going to use our ClickProp backdrops. And we're going to shoot something a little bit more low-key, a little bit like the old masters. And I want to show you exactly how I set that up. It's a very close lighting setup with only one strip light and maybe the umbrella as fill-in light. But it just depends on what we want to do. Okay, so a little bit of an explanation about ClickProp backdrops. Now, in your studio, we of course use paper or we use backdrops. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that when you use paper, first of all, it's not very good for the environment to throw away paper and then buy it again with shipping costs and everything. The other thing is also that when you use paper or seamless, it will only last you a few months or maybe a year, and then you have to replace it. When you use vinyl backdrops or pro-fabric backdrops or printed backdrops or whatever you want to use, canvases, those will last you a lifetime. And the other thing is they may be a little bit more expensive when you buy them, but you can always resell them. In other words, if you're done with the backdrop, you can just sell it. An advice that I will give you guys, when you look at ClickPro backdrops, that's of course our brand, so we highly recommend you guys using that one. In Dutch we always say wc eend adviseert wc eend. The English people are really having a hard day today. But when you use a backdrop from us, it's always very important to determine how you are going to use it. So for example, we also have backdrops that you can use for almost everything, but we also have backdrops that are a little bit more specific. The backdrop I'm going to show you now for a normal studio is literally a life changer. It will earn you a lot of money because a lot of people love these old-fashioned looks, and this is what we're going to do today. So we're using the Art Botanical. So let's switch over to our picture-in-picture again, and let's go to the set and let's meet Nadine over there and our beautiful backdrop. Oh, and by the way, I got a question from you guys. Let's answer that while I'm walking away. If you switch the image, it turns more red after a second. Which one is coming out of the camera? Peter, the image is actually both straight out of the camera. However, sometimes Cascable, that's the software I'm using, will give you a little bit more of a saturated look when I'm using the iPad via HDMI. So when I'm using the iPad standard, I don't see that oversaturated red. It's somewhere in the middle. So normally the image that comes in, the first you see, that's the raw file. And then when you see that overflowing of red, that's a little bit what Cascable does when it sharpens the image and it just gives it a little bit of a boost. Again, when I connect it straight to a monitor, I don't have that problem. It's only when I'm using my Chromecast via Wi-Fi that sometimes it just messes it up. I think it has something to do with color handling in the iPad Pro. So don't worry about it. It's fine. But you are absolutely right. It's the first image you see. After that, it's a little bit messed up. But hey, it's only with red, by the way. If we use blue or any other color and it's very intense, you see the same thing. But if we just shoot it, it actually looks great. Okay, so we have our backdrop. Let's first start very simple with our strip light from here. And we just turn it on. Aim it at our model. And I absolutely love this, Nadine. This is so fitting for the backdrop. Okay. So this is more like a standard 45-degree angle. And standard, yeah, I like it, but I don't. It's a little bit boring. So let's try first standard. 2.85. Let's go for F4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that should be F4. Okay, and of course ISO 200 is ISO 100 now. Okay, there we go. Okay. So this is under a 45-degree angle, and it's not bad. I actually like it. It's a really nice image. But if you want to include a little bit more of that hair, what should you do? Remember when I told you guys that lower your angle will change the image? When I look at my composition, I actually like this composition. I don't like the model to be lower. I literally like this. But I want to show more of the hair. Now watch what happens when I lower my angle. So I'm using my flip-up screen, lowering the angle, keeping roughly the same composition. And now, that's a miracle. Now I have way more of her hair. Do you see the difference? And that's the cool thing about choosing your position. Anna-Week, do you have to go to the restroom or is there a question?
Can you please remove the umbrella from the set?
Can I remove the umbrella?
It's not participating, but it's in the picture.
Well, it will be participating maybe later, but then I will turn it back. Is this okay?
Yes, thank you.
You are more than welcome. Now, when I look at this image, I do have to notice that on on the right side, it's a little bit too dark. So I'm going to ask my model to hold her arm in front. Yes, there we go. That's also better. And let's move myself a little bit to the side. There we go. So I really like when you move around your model, you literally change the whole look of your image. But what if I shoot from here, from a more flat angle? Oh, wow, look at that. So overall, I'm starting to really dig this backdrop. I start to really like the way that the model poses. And now comes the dangerous part, because you start to like it. And it means that you are very prone to go like, okay, this is it. I'm done. Thank you very much, Nadine. You're done. Let's go home. But maybe not. Bear with me. Although this is right, it is still under that 45-degree angle. And I just told you guys that I don't really like that 45-degree angle. I want a little bit more spice, a little bit more oomph. So let's take that strip light and move it all the way to the side. But let's do something else too. Let's do this. And let's just ask our model to step a little bit forward. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. There you go, awesome. And maybe a little bit that way. Great. Don't you just love being able to control your model? And that's without any mind control. There we go. Just aim it down. Perfect. Can you see straight through the grid at the moment? Great. Now if I want a little bit more light on the backdrop, I will angle it slightly towards the backdrop. If I want a little bit less, I will aim it back. So I will actually start with this, a little bit in the middle. Okay, love it. It's a real danger hazard here. 4.04, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that should be F4. Okay. So now my light is more from the side, and that will give me much more contrast. And can also get me into a lot of problems, by the way, but let's see what happens. There we go, so way more contrast, but also very, very dark, as you can see. But I do like it a lot, but I want more light on my backdrop. I really like that one, so let's change that one a little bit. There we go. Okay, perfect. There we go. Love the way that the backdrop responds to this. It's almost like she's in a beam of light. Wow. But hey, I miss those shadows. Of course, we can go into Lightroom and open up the shadows, or we can use an umbrella. So let's pick up that umbrella, and we can do it from a distance, don't worry. So it's not in the set. Let's turn it up all the way. Now let's just cook with it. Let's see what we like. Oh, that's too much, I think. I see the image a little bit. Oh, actually, it's not really too much. But I don't really like it on the backdrop that much, because I like that spot effect. So let's feather it again. So don't, oops. That will be funny. There we go, I think this is better. Yeah, I like it. So we still have that nice glowing feeling on the backdrop. Let's do it a little bit more flatter. So from here. Oh, like this too. Or maybe from here to create very high contrast. And again in portrait mode. Oh, nice. But when I shoot from this angle, I start to see something that we sometimes label as chiaroscuro. Light, dark, light, dark. And when I look at this shot, I get really excited, because this is what I really like. This is so high in contrast. This is so nice. So let's just try a little bit different with her arm. So yeah, there we go. Nice. Lovely. Okay, without the hand in front of, yes, there we go. Love it. I'm going to stand a little bit more here to crop out the softbox. Ooh, love that pose. You see the angle I'm getting now, the curves? Love it. Nice. And you see me coaching all the time with nice and great, never anything negative. And this is just to get the energy in the shoot very positive. Now, when the cameras are off, of course, I'm like a really nasty guy going... No, I'm just kidding. Oh, what was that?
I don't know. It's Siri.
Ah, okay. Hey, Annelie, can you turn on the red light, please? So Annelie is now running up the stairs, turning on the red light. And let's just shoot from a low angle. Let's just see what red does. Ooh, look at that. That's nice. Anyway, can you lower the brightness of red to about 2 stops down? Yeah. Nice. And 2 stops up? There we go, that's better. Thank you. Nice. So I'm actually using 2 different strobes to open up my shadow areas. But by adding that little bit of red, do you also see that the color shifts towards blue a little bit? That's because I'm at the moment shooting on auto white balance. Let's just switch that over to strobes. So. Okay, Annelie nicely says, hey Frank, your sun hood isn't on the camera. That's correct, because we want lens flare. And when we have the sun hood on the camera, it actually blocks off that lens flare. So we don't want that. We don't want the sun hood on at the moment. There we go, look at this. Now you get a more sense of what I'm seeing. So I really like this look. It really fits the backdrop, it really fits the model. Maybe it's a little bit too much. But I don't want to ask Annelie to come up again. So what I'm actually going to do from a distance, it was on full power, Annelie? Yes. Okay, I can only do this once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to go up from f4, not to 5.6, but to 5.0, because I only went up 2/3. There we go. I think this balances it out just a little bit nicer. Yes, really like this. But now I have to go low. Let me see. I told everybody that I wouldn't shoot from a low angle. And now I am doing it. I'm so sorry, guys. A little scheef? Yes, it's a little scheef. It's a little bit skewed. Yep, correct. And with a lot... Ooh, I love that pose, Nadine. That's nice. Wow, look at that. As mentioned before, I don't really like portrait modes because normally the attention just fully goes to the model. And I don't want it. I also want to see a little bit of the set, of the styling. And of course the model is great, but you don't want your model to be full frame all the time. But as you can see here, I'm not really shooting a portrait. I am actually shooting the whole set. So when I shoot a portrait, you can do it like this. And in this case, I don't really like the portrait mode because, okay, this image is great because the styling is great, the backdrop is nice, the clothing is nice, but it's still, yeah, no. But when I do this for a portrait, or even closer, this just breathes way more. But in this case, because we also want to include the bottom part, I'm actually going to sit down and just shoot up. And of course we want to include that bottom part. So zoom out a little bit more, there we go. And it looks like she's almost floating above that material on the floor. Wow. And also here, of course, move around your model. Don't stand on one position, but for example, go here. And if there's a softbox in the frame, you can always crop that out. Or just zoom in. There we go. If you don't like this look, no problem. We have many different other looks. We also have this one. And if you don't like that one and you want it even softer, you go here. At one point, of course, I will run out of backdrop. But overall, and behind the model, the lighting is now a little bit more harsh. So this is not my preferred setting. I think I will end up somewhere like here. Yep. That's nice. Lower your arms. That's nice. Do that. Yes, cool. Love it. Great poses, Nadine. Wow. Just keep shooting. Okay, cross your arms if you want in a moment. Not now. Yes, there we go. Wow, look at this. So overall, I think this just makes the model jump out way more. For me, it elevates the shot. And that material on the floor, if that wasn't there, it will look much less interesting. So I think overall, I think this one is really nice, Nadine. So let's try some more. I also like this, but I think the whole set, and again, I'm not a big fan of shooting it in portrait mode, but in this case, it just fits the mood perfectly. Okay, now if you look at the shots, Nadine is leaning forwards, and you can actually see that on the floor, there's a little bit of a hole, which I don't like. So on location, you can of course say, hey, I will fix that in Photoshop, or Lightroom, or Capture One, or whatever you want to use. But why not just fix it right away? It saves me a lot of work if I've done it before. So now I still have to do it, but you know what I mean, right? That's nice. Okay. Okay, and now do the same kind of poses, and in this case I really like it that she's leaning forward. Do the same kind of poses leaning backwards, just to show them the difference. And I think personally, I would go for this. Nice. Slightly lower angle.
Is that because of the S-curve?
Yeah, it's because of the S-curve. I really like that in a body, but when you lean forward, it also gives a little bit of forward motion, which I like. So, yeah, it's very personal. The other hand, please, in the image. Your backhand, I don't see. Yes, there we go. Awesome. Nice. Okay, final shots. Great. Okay, look straight at me. There we go. Now, this is something that you don't want to do. In this case, it's okay, and I can tell you already why. Normally, when I don't use that backlighting, it will be very dark on this side, almost like a Rembrandt lighting, but too dark. By using that open light on the side, I'll actually get a little bit more. Now, I'm using a K&F Concept diffusion filter. So this is this one, and it's carried around with black nano dots. And that sounds like magic. It really isn't. The main advantage of this filter is that it doesn't infect my sharpness. So I still have great sharp images, but everything that's in the highlights or that's a lens flare, that's enhanced a little bit. So watch what happens when I take that filter off. Now my lens flare becomes fill-in light. We see that more like an accent light. As soon as I put the filter on, now it really nicely fills out that area. But what if you don't have a filter like that? And you go like, you know what, I don't have a filter, I don't have money for the filter. I want a simple Dutch solution. In other words, something that's free. Well, you can try this. You have to wait until it clears up a little bit, and we have high humidity here at the moment. And there you go. So now you have an even more effect. This is like 2 or 3 black mist filters stacked on top of each other. But as soon as it clears up, the effect is gone. A little bit. There we go. Wait for the focus. And there we go. But, you know, everything before but doesn't really matter, right? Oh, I really like this one, by the way. Look at how the model really jumps out from the fog. I have to say fog. Now, this is a magnetic filter. Now, normal filters you screw on your lens. And one of the problems when you screw a filter on your lens is, one, you can do it a little bit like off angle, and then it's really hard to get the filter off. Or you can have a little bit of dust on your filter thread or sand, and you don't get the filter off anymore. We're using a magnetic system, so our main ring is on the camera. And that one we just put on in the studio, just cleaned everything, put it on, make sure that there's no debris anywhere. And as you can see here, I can easily just move it around. The magnetic part is where we put it on. But the cool thing about magnetic is also, Annemiek, Can I have the other black diffusion filter, please? Is I can actually stack filters. And there's a special Frank Dorov edition. If you can show it to me, Annemiek.
Yeah.
Thank you. So this is the other black diffusion filter. Let's put that on. So now I have two. I feel a little bit like Bruce Willis. Now I have a machine gun. But as you can see here, now I get even more of that lens flare. Do you see the play here? Ooh, I really like this. Now I'm getting more enthusiastic about it. So I'm now using two diffusion filters on top of each other for that extra smoothness in my light. Ooh, love it. There we go. Okay, thank you very much, Nadine. You're done. Isn't it awesome? So let's take this one off again and show you guys in a moment. Watch out for my camera, please. Oh, I do have to do one more thing. Annemiek, can you turn off the red light? I almost forgot. The most important shot of the whole digital classroom is this one. Now, what is this? This is the new Color Checker Duo. I'm going to tell you that in a moment. So, can you hold this in front of your face, please? Don't touch the squares while I'm shooting. Just hold it flat. There we go. Thank you very much. That's all. Great. Okay, camera is off. Let's go here. Okay. Okay, let's switch over to the picture-in-picture. Okay. Now, one of the things that I love about this setup is that we started out pretty simple, and this is still a great shot, but in all honesty, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I don't know what I want to say, but it's a great shot, but it doesn't excite me. And what do I mean with excitement? With excitement, I mean a shot that really captures you by your throat. It goes like, look at me, I'm awesome. And this shot is more like, look at me, I'm awesome. But I don't want it. I want a ballsy awesomeness. So as soon as I started adding that red gel, look at this. Now it looks like that model is really floating above the material. I get this really nice look. And as you can see here, it adds way too much red, but hey, bear with me. You can also see that gaping hole in the bottom, which later up I filled up. So I really like this. And let's go to the later shots. When I go for the color checker. Look at this. This is with the two diffusion filters stacked. And I just love what you see on the side. You see that over here? It's like that beautiful lens flare that's there, and it does its own thing, and I absolutely love that. But I told you guys about the K&F concept kit, so let me show you what's in there. And actually, there's a few tips in there also. Not in the bag, of course. Is there a tip in there? No. So when I started using the K&F concept filters, they asked me like, hey Frank, which filters do you really like? Which filters do you mostly use? And I was going like, I like the black diffusion filters, but I'm always doubting between the 1.4 or the 1.8. The 1.2 is too strong for me for most cases. And the 1.8 I actually ended up using for video, for example, which I really like, or walking outside. The 1.4 is great for lens flares. It's one of the best filters I ever used. And I'm not really a big filter fan, so coming from me, that's a big thing. And they said, you know what, we're going to make a signature series for you. And the only thing I said, I want to make sure that if you build something that's a signature series, I don't want people to be paying more for the 3 filters that's in there than they would do if they buy it separately. And they came up with a beautiful solution. Look at this. This is handmade in the Netherlands. It's leather, real leather.
Recycled.
Recycled leather, of course. So the animal was dead, right? Isn't it? You know what I mean, right? It's a recycled leather, so we are very for the environment, of course. And inside you have a really soft inlay. And inside you will find, of course, 2 black diffusion filters, a lens cap. I'm showing you a lens cap instead of the black diffusion filter. Go figure. But so 2 diffusion filters, the 1.4 and the 1.8. But the other thing that's in there, and this is like a hidden gem, it's a variable ND filter from 2 to 128. And this is awesome when you work on location with strobes. Because one of the things that you guys probably don't realize is when you're using speed lights on location or very modern strobes, you have something called HSS, high speed sync. And it means that you guys can shoot on, well, let's say 1/8,000th of a second or 1/5,000th of a second. But most big studio strobes or outside battery packed strobes don't have that option, so they can't use HSS. They still shoot with the X-Sync, and the X-Sync is often 125th of a second, maybe 1/60th, and if you keep your model away from the top, you can actually end up with 1/350, I believe that's the max I ever did with the model half frame. Because if you shoot faster, you will get that nasty black bar on top. Now, if you're outside, we of course render the ambient light and the strobe. So if you have your model below that part where the black bar is, you have perfect lighting and you can play around a little bit with that shutter speed. But if you don't have that luxury, you always have to shoot on f16 or f22 if you want to kill the sun. So by using a variable ND filter on a modern camera with an EVF, you still have okay focus. It's a little bit slower of course, but it works like a charm. But you can take away stops. And that means that I can shoot on 2.8 outside with strobes and still kill the sun, which is an awesome way to shoot. Because outside, look at my portfolio, before I started using the filter, everything was sharp from front to end. Now when I start using the filter, you will see that we get less depth of field. So in other words, it becomes more shallow and it gives you just beautiful shots. So in the kit, there's a 1.8, a 1.4 and a variable ND filter. Now the color checker I told you guys, this is the new one. It's a little bit more expensive, so if you are only shooting photos, so if you're a photographer, you don't need this one. Just buy the old one, that's great. It's just a color checker passport. This one is the Duo. And why is this so cool? Because we do both video and photography. And this side has photography, so we have a white balance card, which I personally don't use. I use the top part and then just balance on one of those squares. But if you open it up the other way, you actually have the video color checker. Combine those two and you pay a lot more money than just buying the Duo. So if you're also into video and you want to make sure that your video looks great, you can set up your whites and your blacks very easily. And of course, if you're profiling, think about the Calibrite Color Checker Duo. I highly recommend it. And by the way, I also always recommend using color checkers and light meters because it just works way better than without.
And this one has a blue cord.
Yeah, this one is the blue cord, the other one is the red cord. So in the studio you immediately know which one you're going to pick up. And they listen to me. They now have a fluorescent sticker on the top. The only thing is they don't have it on the back. So if you put it in the studio like this, you still lose your color checker, you can't find it. But if you place it like this, it actually reflects back light now. That's awesome. And this is the older one. Still great, but this one is only for photography. This one is Duo. Anyway, do we need to tell any more? There we go. Oh, okay. So for the Dutch people, we have the workshops, of course, in full swing again. We're doing it now on every Saturday. So before Corona, we did Fridays and Saturday. At the moment, we only do Saturdays. And on February 25th, we have a really cool one, and that's Kinky Lights. It's a glamour workshop, but with very special lighting. Like we're going to combine LED lighting, we're going to combine a little bit of smoke, we're going to do a lot of funky stuff that's a little bit, well, a little bit over the top maybe, but it just looks great. And the Kinky Lights name just came up. It has nothing to do with kinky, but it's just great. The reason I'm mentioning this is that workshop will be in English. So that means if you're in the Netherlands or you think, I would love to do a workshop with Frank and visit the Netherlands, which I highly recommend, of course, both. February 25th, an English workshop, Kinky Lights. And of course, also Dutch people are welcome. We're just going to do the workshop in English. On February 22, make sure you register for the Photo Wow seminar. This one is going to be special because we're going to do a black and white one. I never did that one before. It's going to be really interesting. We have some really nice ideas about it with high contrast lighting, film noir, the detective looking out, you know all the stuff, right? And we're going to show you what I do differently when I already know the images is going to be black and white. It's not a lot. But there are some things in there that might surprise you and will help you out when you shoot in black and white. And then March 15, we have the next digital classroom. There's no team yet, or is there a team?
Not yet.
Okay,
No,
so you guys leave comments below and we will do a whole digital classroom. Maybe with your questions, maybe we do it from home and with images, or we do a live shoot. Just let me know what you want to do. Then on April 3, we are at the trade show for the Masters Photography Network in Den Bosch. It's a trade show where we are together, I believe, with Mo Fidus, and that's K&F Concept. We will be showing their Rogue, of course, IQwire, and probably also ClickPro backdrops if we can fit everything on the stand. But we'll have all the flyers with us, of course. And over there, I'm not doing any seminars, right?
Not yet. No.
Not yet. I'm just on the booth, and that's, for me, something that's awesome, because now I can just meet you guys, talk to you guys, and I don't have to run from A to B to C to Z the whole day long. So I'm just going to be on my own booth and just having fun with you guys. And then on May 13th and 14th, we're in Germany for a workshop. So where's the Germany workshop? Is that on Landschaftspark?
Yes.
That's awesome. Landschaftspark is without any doubt a great location. It's like a little bit of an urbex location. Not completely, but it has all the charm of an urbex location. We did a workshop there before, and I was flabbergasted by all the options you had there, playing with depth of field, playing with leading lines, and that rough material. There's even a set where you see water and you can just walk over stones. It's an amazing setup and very industrial. So in the back you have this beautiful factory with all these pipes and everything, and everything around it's a little bit rough. It's just an awesome location. Okay guys, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And of course, most of all, we'd like to thank you so very much for watching. We'd like to thank Rogue and BenQ for sponsoring Digital Classroom for over 8 years. And of course, Calibrite, our new partner, also for Digital Classroom. Yes, Peter, it's Landschaftspark Duisberg. Correct, that's the one where we do the workshop. Do I want to tell anything? Oh yeah, please subscribe to our channel, of course, but most of all, tell other people about our channel so we can grow. And make sure you check out the video that will be released tomorrow about Photo AI. It will literally blow your mind. The review is already on frankdorov.com on the blog, but this is one of those software packages where I go like, I never seen this before. And I've seen a lot of software, and there's a lot of great software out there like Luminar, Capture One, of course, all the Adobe stuff, but this is just insane. And thanks, of course, to Martin, my dear friend, who helped us out with the cameras today. And Martin I've known my whole life. So thank you so very much, Martin, for helping us out. That made NOX's life a little bit easier. And for you guys, a little bit better to watch. I'd like to thank you so very much for watching, guys. And thank you, and see you again next time. Stay safe. Bye-bye.